You know all those things you ever wanted to say to Hollywood celebrities? You know how you feel when you're lectured on morality by the worst people in the world? You know all those comebacks you ever wanted to say, all the things you ever just wanted to get out if you were ever to win an Academy Award or a Golden Globe? What would you say to these people who spend their entire lives telling you what rotten, awful people you are? You don't have to wait for that opportunity. Ricky Gervais did it in front of the Golden Globe crowd. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop talking for the most golden 30 seconds of video that I have heard in my adult life.
If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and
Steve, on national television, which used to mean something, but one of the things that Ricky Gervais said earlier is that nobody watches movies anymore. I think that's actually more important than what he ended up saying to these celebrities to their faces. But he said, you don't know anything. You haven't been in school as long as St. Greta. And come on up, take your award and get the F off of the stage. Yeah. You don't know anything about anything. And you look at the reactions of this crowd. It's like, did he just say that on camera? Did the unwashed out there, those Christian conservatives, just hear somebody tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about? You know, the thing about the Emperor's New Clothes, Steve, is it just takes one boy at the end of the parade, and Ricky Gervais has that kind of boyish, impish kind of, I'm going to pop this balloon even though I'm going to pay a big price for it.
Yeah. You know, what it reminds me of is the pompous celebrity or politician. I'm thinking in this case, I know of two real world examples. One was very public. It was John Kerry. The other is sports broadcaster Joe Buck, who, by the way, I went to high school with for a couple of years. He was a jerk then, too. But the famous, do you know who I am remark, you know, try to get cut in line or get some special treatment or whatever. And Ricky Gervais has the exact right response to that, although I'm paraphrasing very, very much. Do you know who I am? Yeah. So? And that is just so perfect. It punctures the pomposity and all the rest. But what I really wanted to talk about, there was a great column by, let me look up his name here because I wasn't familiar with him. Carl Noturno in American Greatness on Monday, and it was headlined, it was about the Ricky Gervais thing at the Golden Globes, and it's headlined, "To Hell with These Gilded Charlatans." And man, when I read that, did I wish that I had thought of that phrase, gilded charlatans, because it sums up the Hollywood types absolutely perfectly. But he made an important point in the second part of his column. And that is, and he didn't call it this, but he was really explaining the death of middlebrow culture. Hollywood and the entertainment industry in general tried, not all the time and not always successfully, but tried at least some of the times to provide entertainment that was more than just popcorn, that was actually elevating, that celebrated the values that make the middle of America so great, not to mince words about it. And we've lost that. Hollywood in particular, it makes one popcorn movie after another, each one following the exact same beats. I'm sure you read the Shoot the Dog book explaining exactly why every movie feels the same. And they do, because they're all hitting the exact same beats. There's very little out there anymore that is challenging or even better yet, elevating. And it goes to this idea. It used to be you didn't have to get the college degree, but if you wanted to kind of be taken seriously in social circles, no matter what your actual education was, you were supposed to have some sort of familiarity, even if it was just the Reader's Digest condensed version with the touchstones of Western culture. And really over the last 30, 40, 50 years, that's kind of been obliterated. I mean, I love a good superhero movie. I love a good rock album. But we no longer raise people with the expectation to go to the symphony, not just because it's good music, but because it's good for you. And I don't mean in an eat your peas way. I mean in a way that it actually makes you better inside for having experienced something so well written, so well done, so well performed. And the idea that we've lost this middlebrow culture, which I was kind of steeped in as a kid, fortunately. It's sad. And what it reminds me of most is we look at a celebrity today like Gal Gadot, who played Wonder Woman in that just wonderful, silly, marvelous, enjoyable movie a couple of years ago. And they've got the new one coming out this summer. I can't wait to see it. The reason why conservatives kind of glom on to a Gal Gadot is very simple. I don't know what her actual politics are, but she is a very old school Hollywood celebrity in the sense that she's always projecting her best self. I don't know what she's like in her personal life. Maybe she's a horrible person, but in public, she projects and presents glamour and goodness. And we're really starved for that, aren't we?
Yeah. That's all you need to know about that person is that I don't know anything about their personal politics.
Yeah.
That's why we'll go to see a movie, because we're not hiring you to get your political opinion. That's our job. Their job is to look good and fly through space and shoot laser beams out of their eyes.
Yes.
Scott, what Ricky Gervais did took an awful lot of courage. Watching the clip again, it looks like maybe it took some liquid courage, but nevertheless, it took an awful lot of courage. And on a moment earlier here, I'll just play this for you because this was shocking. Here's Ricky Gervais talking about a show that was produced by Apple Computers, and the president of Apple Computers, or I think it's the president, high-ranking CEO of Apple, is in the crowd enjoying kudos and enjoying the love of the masses and living the golden life amongst the other golden statues and idols. And Ricky Gervais had to say this.
Apple roared into the TV game with a morning show, a superb drama, a superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. So, well, you say you're woke, but the companies you work for, I mean, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you?
Dude, it's one thing to confront the president of Apple for hiring essentially slave labor to make your phones. It's another thing on top of that for it to be a celebrity who's actually a real person that the head of Apple might actually pay attention to say that to you in an airport. But for a celebrity to say that to you, I don't think it was embarrassing so much because it was in front of the entire world, but it was embarrassing to him because it was in front of Brad Pitt and Meryl Streep and he said it in front of Robert De Niro. To call this guy out as basically you're a hypocrite. You make films about decency and hard work and responsibility, and then you use slave labor to make your products to sell to people. He really has accomplished something, and I think it's been up for 2 days on the web now, Scott. 8.5 million views, of which the YouTube viewership 330,000 approve of what Ricky Gervais said to these people, 4,000 disapprove. So pretty much 100 to 1.
Well, and extending that beyond just the critique of Apple Computers or of Amazon, to go on as Ricky Gervais did and basically turn that around on the actors and say, oh, well, you in your, virtue signaling to say that you're opposed to these to human rights violations, and yet you jump right in bed with Apple's new TV network. You'll jump right in bed with Amazon Prime's video network. If ISIS started a network, you would immediately call your agent. Yeah, a streaming service.
Yeah, if ISIS had a streaming service, you'd be calling your agent.
Call your agent right away. I mean, that pointing out, it shouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, my goodness, the word hypocrite is the Greek word for actor. I mean, so it's not a surprise that these people are pretending to be somebody they're not. Years ago, I saw an interview with Michael. What was the guy? Was it Michael Keaton? Not Michael Keaton. The guy who played in Back to the Future.
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox, thank you. Michael J. Fox, and they said, they were interviewing him and saying, at the peak of his career, and they said, how do you handle the stress of your job? And Michael J. Fox just kind of looked befuddled, and he looked at them and he said, stress? He said, I wake up every morning and I go somewhere and I pretend to be somebody I'm not. It's a goof. And that's, I think if we kind of had that perspective, and if more actors had that perspective that basically said, hey, look, what I do is a goof. I'm play acting. I'm pretending that I'm somebody I'm not. I'm doing what a 3-year-old does all day long, except somehow I've managed to get paid for that. That's not bad. But I don't take myself too seriously because I realize that I'm pretending to be somebody I'm not. By the way, my favorite joke, I think, in the monologue really wasn't so political, but he said, I understand that they're going to make a sequel to Sophie's Choice. And he said, what are they going to do? Have Meryl Streep going, yeah, well, I guess I'll take the other one. So, it was really a brilliant routine. But in that time, he not only attacked Hollywood for its hypocrisy, but he very directly went after them for its history and widespread pedophilia. And he said that, the person that everybody in that room was most afraid of was Ronan Farrow. Because Ronan Farrow is the guy who broke the story of the Harvey Weinstein and some other, these molestation cases, these pedophilia cases. And then he makes this joke with Leonardo DiCaprio and basically, said some of the movies are so long this year that by the time the 3-hour movie was over, that Leo DiCaprio's date was too old for him. And Prince Andrew is sitting next to Leo saying, oh, brother, I don't know about that one. You think on one level, you're like, oh, he's making a joke. He's poking fun at Leo DiCaprio. On the other level, you're going, no. He's talking about the real problem that Hollywood has with pedophilia. This thing that they've swept under the rug and kept secret behind the veil as they portray themselves to be people that they are not, great heroic characters on the screen who are molesting children behind the scenes. And I think Ricky Gervais did something there that most comedians can't pull off really well, is he managed to make a distinctly serious point with some cutting humor in a way that I think is going to reverberate in the industry. Beyond anything else, I think he was absolutely accurate in the fact that television and Hollywood, so-called, are really dead entities. And he said, we should just end this show by saying, hey, Netflix, great job. See you next year, because that Netflix has completely reinvented the industry and made the rest of those people in that room look irrelevant.
What he accomplished was it wasn't just interesting and fun, and it wasn't just a moment that conservatives have been waiting for. It wasn't just a comeuppance and all the rest of it. It was actually it's a cultural landmark. I really do believe that it is. In Hollywood, which is just behind my wall there, I was a TV editor on a show called Sunday Morning Shootout, which was a movie talk show. I did 180 episodes of that. I saw all these people behind the scenes. Some of them were very good people, some of them not very good people, but hot mic stuff where you're listening to them and they're not on camera yet. We're not rolling. And they refer to this time of year as kudos season. Kudos season is not just the Golden Globes, of course. The Golden Globes is a warm-up for the Academy Awards. But prior to that, you get an appetizer of the Directors Guild Awards, the Screen Actors Guild Awards. You get the People's Choice Awards. You get all these other awards. And what you get is a bunch of extremely good-looking, very rich, almost completely white liberals in a room patting themselves on the back. And they do this every year. So I'd like to imagine that you work at a hotel, let's say, just because it's a generally well-rounded sort of an organization. And imagine that every single year, your hotel had awards, and not just awards for like the best employee, but there was a best waiter award, a housekeeper award, best engineer award. And you say, hey, John's done an incredible job of being a waiter for 4 years, but he's never won the award. And just think what it would be like if you had to go to that every single year with the exact same group of people in order to pat yourself on the back and tell yourself what a great job you're doing. These are some of the worst people in the world. Terms of morality and in terms of their education level, Ricky Gervais is absolutely right. Nobody wants to hear what they have to say. They have brought this on themselves. There was a time when Hollywood represented American values, and if a Hollywood movie star didn't agree with what the great unwashed out in flyover country was before they called it flyover country, he kept his mouth shut because he wasn't being paid to make political commentary. He's being paid to make movies. But no. They have to show everybody how deep they are. And basically, you can sum up the Hollywood actor as somebody who goes down to Starbucks with a copy of War and Peace under their arms, then puts on a pair of glasses that have no actual prescription in order to read them. That's all you need to know about Hollywood. I maintain that this is a watershed moment. The left has destroyed Star Wars because of putting their politics into it, and rather than accepting it, the people have simply just walked away from it. And I only want to bring up Star Wars for one reason. The destruction of Star Wars and all the rest of it, I've talked about it many times. I'm not going to get into it in detail here. But the destruction of Luke Skywalker could have been stopped. There were a number of people that wanted it to happen, but could have been stopped by one person. There's only one person, I really believe this, there's only one person that could have stopped Star Wars from being completely destroyed and unmade. And that person is Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill, who plays Luke Skywalker, could have come out and said, instead of complaining about the role that he was given and how it destroys Luke Skywalker, instead of doing interviews complaining about it, Mark Hamill could have simply said, I'm not going to play this. I'm not going to be a part of destroying the essence of who this character is. Not going to do it. And you can say, well, he was under contractual and so on and so on. But if Mark Hamill had stood up and said, I am not going to turn Luke Skywalker into a grumpy, bitter, angry, murdering, child abusing kind of, I'm not going to do it, then the entire country would have stood up with Mark Hamill, and the business would have threatened him, but they would have had to back down. But Mark Hamill didn't do it. He complained about it, and he cried about it, but he didn't do it. And the reason that he didn't do it is because there's a difference between Mark Hamill and Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is ready to give his life for what he believes in. Mark Hamill wasn't ready to give the tail end of a career that only is connected to this. He wasn't ready to give the tail end of his career to save this iconic vision of who he was, because Mark Hamill is just an actor. He's just an actor. He's not a hero. He's an actor. He could have been a hero, but he doesn't have what it takes, which is why he's an actor. That'll do it for this edition of Right Angle, brought to you by the paying members at BillWhittle.com. And if you like what you hear, you can hear it in person. We're going on a boat, and we're going to need a bigger boat. Details about the cruise coming up in May are listed below, and we'll see you next week right here on Right Angle.